Tonight, the Supreme Court's unanimous ruling on reproductive rights. The nation's highest court weighs in with its first opinion on abortion since overturning Roe v. Wade.
It isn't the end. There are 3 states that will continue to litigate this issue in the lower courts.
Plus, breaking news, Justice Clarence Thomas gifted more luxury travel than previously known from a GOP megadonor. The new details. The CBS Evening News starts now. The nation's highest court rejects an effort to limit the use of the widely used abortion pill mifepristone. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. The implications are enormous. Medications are now the most common way to end a pregnancy, and some providers send them by mail to states that have limited or banned abortions. The decision comes on the same day that Senate Republicans blocked legislation that would protect access for in vitro fertilization and other fertility treatments. Democrats brought this bill to the floor because they're trying to make the battle over reproductive rights a centerpiece of the debate this election year. CBS's Jan Crawford is at the Supreme Court with why all 9 justices on this divided court agreed on this ruling.
Finding common ground in a divisive case, the Supreme Court refused to roll back access to the abortion pill mifepristone, saying a group of anti-abortion doctors had no business filing a lawsuit over how the pill was approved.
We knew we had no choice but to sue the FDA.
The decision, written by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, unanimously reversed conservative lower court judges who okayed the group's lawsuit against the FDA, seeking to restrict access to the drug nationwide. The stakes were high. 63% of abortions last year were medication abortions, and the lower court ruling would have required women to see a health care provider instead of telehealth to get the pill. The justices said the lawsuit was flawed from the beginning because the anti-abortion doctors weren't harmed by the FDA's approval of mifepristone, and so they lacked legal standing to sue. Instead of going to the courts, Kavanaugh wrote, citizens and doctors who object to what the law allows others to do may always take their concerns to the executive and legislative branches. While not a decision on the merits, it sends a message to lower courts to put some brakes on novel legal efforts both sides have used in the fight over abortion.
It isn't the end. There are 3 states that will continue to litigate this issue in the lower courts.
Those states are Idaho, Missouri, and Kansas. Additional states ban mifepristone prescriptions by telehealth, and Louisiana has listed it as a controlled dangerous substance.
This is not a cause for celebration because the reality is certain things are still not going to change.
Now, we expect more decisions from the court tomorrow and then over the next couple weeks as the justices wrap up what's been an incredibly consequential term. And one of the cases we're still waiting on, whether former President Trump can be prosecuted for his actions around January 6th. I expect that case and all of these cases by the end of the month, early July. Nora?
And Jen, I do want to ask you about that breaking news about Justice Clarence Thomas, a report revealing he took more flights on a private jet funded by a megadonor and that they were not disclosed by the justice. What can you tell us?
Well, the Senate Judiciary Committee has released some documents that show he took 3 additional trips with his longtime friend, the billionaire Harlan Crow, including a trip to Montana, another trip back to his family home in Savannah. But Justice Thomas has always maintained that those kind of trips with a friend who didn't have business before the court were personal hospitality and as a result did not have to be disclosed under the rules in place at the time. The Judicial Conference changed those rules last year. Justice Thomas says going forward, he will report all of that travel on his disclosure reports. Nora?
Jan Crawford at the Supreme Court, thank you. Now to the record-breaking rainfall and rising floodwaters across South Florida. 5 counties are under a state of emergency right now after days of nonstop heavy downpours, and it's still coming down. Floodwaters are stranding drivers, closing schools, and causing headaches for homeowners. CBS's Manuel Bojorquez is in the thick of it.
Heavy rain slammed South Florida for the 4th day in a row. The rainfall rate was as high as 4 inches an hour. The drenching downpour has left parts of Miami-Dade County impassable, with cars submerged and entire neighborhoods underwater.
I think it's crazy. I mean, look at my pants. Look at me. I'm wet. Every time I walk in the street, the water's right here.
The storm system, now centered over the Atlantic, has dumped more than 20 inches of rain in some areas. Waist-high water meant some residents waded, kayaked, or wakeboarded to get around flooded communities. In Dania Beach, first responders rescued at least 40 people from floodwaters as homeowners sought higher ground. Officials are warning residents to stay off the roads.
More than half of the deaths from flooding each year occur in vehicles. So the message is, turn around, don't drown.
In Hallandale Beach, this person drove right into a canal, mistaking it for a road. Schools in all of Broward County were closed today. Here in Hollywood, Florida, Eric Aragon's home flooded. They had to evacuate through a window, and now he's concerned about what's next.
It's only going to get worse, and honestly, I don't want anything to happen to myself or my family, so yeah, we're gonna leave.
His house is just down this street, where, as you can see, the flooding had not receded before this new round of storms began. Further south, the city of Miami Beach has opened up 9 parking garages so people can move their cars away from low-lying areas. Nora?
Manny Bojorquez, thank you for being out there. And for how long these storms will stick around and the heat wave moving east, let's bring in CBS Miami Chief Meteorologist Ivan Cabrera. Good evening, Ivan.
Nora, good to see you. We have, let's see, happy ducks. We've got happy iguanas here in South Florida. Everyone else is not. We're just waiting for the sunshine to come back, and unfortunately, we're going to have to wait another day. We are waterlogged here. As you saw there, some folks are getting home by kayak. This is a second no-name storm that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years. Take a look at some of the numbers there. 12 to as high as 20 inches of rainfall have fallen over the last couple of days. Just to put that in perspective, that's about 3 months worth of rainfall here across South Florida. You know, we always talk about the atmospheric river over California. Well, we have our own here that has been moving through. We've been tapping into the tropics, and it has just been relentless rain, tropical rains funneled right over South Florida, and that's going to continue for at least one more day. In fact, additional accumulations, perhaps of 2 to 4 inches, which on top of what we've already had is going to make things a lot worse. Also, following this, severe weather moving out of the Midwest. That is going to be entering the Northeast as we head in through tomorrow. So heads up there. We've got gusty winds. In fact, severe wind gusts 60, 80 miles an hour, not out of the question. Large hail. And then, of course, the big story, the heat dome we've been covering. That expands to the east, so get ready for some of the hottest temperatures that we've seen and experienced so far this season across the Northeast coming up this weekend. Nora.
Ivan, thank you so much. Donald Trump visited Capitol Hill today for the first time since the January 6th riot, a riot he's accused of inciting, causing millions of dollars in damage. Congressional Republicans are falling in line behind the presumptive nominee, as former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that Trump was, quote, returning to the scene of the crime. Here's CBS's Robert Costa.
Rousing displays of Republican unity today around the party's presumptive nominee.
I'm with them 1,000%. They're with me 1,000%.
And a notable show of a truce between Trump and his longtime foil, Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell, after not speaking since late 2020. For former President Trump, Thursday's Washington tour was a chance to play up his poll numbers and reassure his party after becoming a convicted felon last month.
This was a great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party.
In a closed-door meeting with House Republicans, sources say he lashed out at the Justice Department, calling it dirty along with an expletive. He also criticized Milwaukee, host to the Republican National Convention next month, calling it horrible. A spokesman said he was referring to crime and voting issues. Wisconsin Democrat Gwen Moore shot back, saying once he's settled in with his parole officer, I am certain he will discover that Milwaukee is a wonderful city. This was Trump's first trip to the Hill since the January 6 attack in 2021, and Republicans today avoided the topic.
Did January 6 ever come up?
Did not.
On January 6, Donald Trump lit a fire in this country.
Meanwhile, the Biden campaign highlighted Trump's return, releasing this ad this morning, as a mobile billboard was seen playing video of the January 6 attack across Capitol Hill. Trump has said he would pardon rioters.
They ought to release the J6 hostages. They've suffered enough.
As I stood outside the Senate GOP conference room, it was cheer after cheer, laugh after laugh. This wasn't a reckoning, but a Republican embrace of Trump, despite all of his challenges. Nora.
Robert Costa, thank you. Now to tonight's other top stories. President Biden is on the world stage tonight in Italy for the G7. He's speaking about his son for the first time since Hunter's conviction. But as CBS's Nancy Cordes reports for the White House, the high-stakes summit is about supporting Ukraine.
This historic agreement comes as Ukraine struggles to regain momentum in its war with Russia. Late today, President Biden and Ukraine's president signed a document that pledges U.S. support for Ukraine, including military aid and training for the next 10 years. At their press conference, Biden was asked if he felt his son Hunter had been given a fair trial.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
Biden was also asked if he would use his power to reduce his son's sentence, which could include jail time. Biden said no.
A new report from the Department of Justice finds the Phoenix Police Department violated civil rights, discriminated against people of color, and used excessive force. CBS's Chris Van Cleve has more from Arizona.
Nora, DOJ says it found a pattern or practice of the violations, noting pervasive failings that went on for years. The report found officers enforced drug laws and low-level offenses more severely against Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. Phoenix police also unlawfully detained the homeless and violated people's free speech rights.
The police department turned a blind eye to the data, ignored these unmistakable warnings, and failed to uncover its own discriminatory policing patterns.
The city of Phoenix says it will review the report, and the police union flatly rejected it.
And the NYPD made an alarming discovery during a routine traffic stop, finding an arsenal of weapons. And now investigators want to know why the suspect had the stockpile. CBS's Drika Duncan has more.
Nora, police say around 1:30 Wednesday morning, they pulled over 27-year-old Judd Sanson here in Queens for driving with a blacked out license plate. Inside the car, they found a stash of weapons, including a 9mm handgun, 179 rounds of ammunition, knives, axes, and an NYPD bulletproof vest. The suspect pleaded not guilty and was remanded back to jail until Monday. Prosecutors say they don't know what he was planning, but said it could have been a disaster.
Thanks, Drika, and to our teams around the globe. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is investigating multiple deaths associated with weighted sleep sacks and blankets for infants. That consumer alert is next. Now, an important consumer alert for parents and caregivers about weighted infant sleep products. CBS News has learned a government agency is investigating several deaths associated with the products. Here's CBS's Anna Warner.
Gloria Gamboa has 7-month-old twin boys and a sleep problem.
The level of exhaustion that you feel as a new parent, it's almost scary.
So when friends recommended these weighted infant sleep sacks from Dreamland Baby, she bought them. But when they arrived,
I was just like, oh my God, like this is so heavy. I was just scared, like if they couldn't move, if they couldn't breathe. My instincts are telling me, don't use this.
The weighted products are popular, but the Consumer Product Safety Commission warns parents not to use them. The agency told CBS News it's investigating multiple fatalities associated with the products. American Academy of Pediatrics President Dr. Ben Hoffman.
Anything that limits a baby's movement, anything that might impact their ability to breathe and move their chest is going to put a baby at risk.
Retailers including Amazon and Walmart have halted sales of the products. But the two leading U.S. manufacturers told us there have been no deaths caused by their products.
Related to our products, there is no investigation.
Nested Bean founder Mansi Gangan says her own company's study shows the weight of a pouch in their garments did not negatively affect babies.
Our products have always been safe, just as we had designed them. They were designed to be safe.
But the AAP says the study did not test the actual products for overnight unsupervised sleep.
It really starts with safety. That's always been the heart of what we did.
The founder of Dreamland Baby, Tara Williams, says her company has a clinical trial underway now, but admits she did not conduct her own study before she started selling her products in 2018.
Isn't it your job as the manufacturer to figure out whether a product is safe?
before you put it out on the market.
And Anna, I would just push that back to you and tell me what other companies have a peer-reviewed clinical trial that can take years before ever launching a product. We're a small business. How would we have innovation in America? I mean, this is how America works.
To that, AAP President Dr. Hoffman says,
Show me the data that it's safe. If you can't show me that it's safe, I'm not going to be able to recommend it.
Connecticut Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal says government regulation of infant products is too weak.
The Consumer Product Safety Commission has no power to take those products off the shelves.
Senator Blumenthal has asked the FTC to investigate those companies' advertising and statements about safety. Both companies told us they were responding to his concerns. Nested Bean told us his criticisms were inaccurate. But both founders told us they've now lost more than 50% of their business. And Dreamland Babies CEO Williams says she's planning to sue the CPSC over that commissioner's warning letters to retailers. On that, Nora, the CPSC declined to comment.
Anna, thank you very much. It's a submarine showdown in Cuba. That's next. Now to a rare announcement from the U.S. Navy. Just one day after a Russian sub showed up in Cuba, the U.S. Southern Command announced that its fast attack submarine, the USS Helena, arrived in Guantanamo Bay. Now, the announcement itself is unusual. The nuclear-powered sub is part of the Navy's so-called silent service, something that's typically kept a secret. Eye on America is next. Roughly 1 in 5 children in the U.S. don't get enough to eat each day. In tonight's Eye on America, we take a look at an innovative method that sets up farms inside schools, just down the hall from the students who need it most. Here's CBS's Roxana Saberi.
At Ashwaubenon High School near Green Bay, Wisconsin, past the tater tots and the fried chicken sandwiches, you'll find something much fresher.
When you get a bite of the salad, it's just amazing.
I eat it every day at school.
So fresh.
Do you know where it comes from? No idea.
It was grown and picked just down the hallway.
Fresh food can be grown easily in Wisconsin in the middle of the winter.
And there's no soil in sight. This indoor hydroponic garden relies on circulating water, special nutrients, and around-the-clock light from LEDs.
We've done tomatoes, beans, sugar snap peas.
Adding up to around 850 pounds of produce a month. Nutrition coordinator Caitlin Tariainen says that's enough to feed up to 2,000 students throughout the district.
A lot of our kids aren't exposed to fresh foods at home just because it's financially hard for the families to purchase those kind of things.
Is this the only place where they're getting fresh vegetables?
It may be, absolutely.
It sets up in about 45 minutes.
The system stemmed from the imagination of Wisconsin native Alex Tyke. Trained as an opera singer, he got into rooftop gardening in New York City between gigs.
They had squash growing right in the middle of Bushwick, Brooklyn.
Then decided to use what he'd learned to start a company called Fork Farms to help people grow their own food.
Food is already having to travel further and further to get from seed to plate. Our food system is failing us.
Which is why he sees this 2,500-year-old technique as the water and land-efficient farming of the future. And with nearly 1 out of every 8 American households facing food insecurity, Tyke says units like his can get people fresh food faster.
It's probably some of the best lettuce I've ever eaten.
Mark Gierock got grants to buy 2 of the $5,000 devices for the food bank he runs near Milwaukee.
As the cost of food continue to rise, it becomes more valuable than anything else. If you have the opportunity to have fresh produce on the table versus something canned or processed or nothing at all, how much better is life for you? And that's what we try to do. We try to make life better.
So did some plants die along the way?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot?
Yes, a lot.
In Milwaukee public schools, where school officials say more than 80% of students are economically disadvantaged, 80 flex farms have sprouted.
That's where it gets really exciting, because now you have a community of people that are focused on doing this together, and they're learning from each other.
And he says they're planting a healthier future together. For Eye on America, Roxana Saberi, Appleton, Wisconsin.
What a great story. We should make those more available. Good night, everybody.